Greetings, good people. It's me, Shimon, and you're listening to yet another tech podcast. Today, we're going to discuss about the online discourse around game preservation, whether you should own digital copies, physical copies, or maybe both. Well, I'm being joined by Rishi Alwani, a man who needs absolutely no introduction, so I'll leave him to do the needful. So, without any further ado, let's get on with the episode. For those who might not know about you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Rishi Alwani. During the day, I run the communications for a Pune-based game studio called Super Gaming. We have an upcoming Indo-futuristic battle royale called Indus, and we have a creator-led, community-driven casual shooter called Battlestars that's available on Google Play and App Store. Shameless plug. Aside from that, in another life, I was the editor of IGN India, ran NDTV's gaming section for a better part of 5 years, and I spend my free time drinking coffee and playing video games.
That's wonderful. Before I delve into Indus and more, I have to ask an obligatory question. What's your daily driver right now?
I'm using an iPhone 15 Plus,
Posh, very
and
posh.
my work laptop is a MacBook Pro, 2020 M1. Plus, I'm using an iPad M1 as well, iPad Pro M1 as well. Those are the three things I use to get things done.
What happened to your nothing phone too?
So when I realized that it was actually ridiculously easy to swap eSIMs over from one device to another, I ended up. I at one point in time, yeah, I was carrying two phones. I was carrying a 13 mini and a nothing phone too. But then I realized it's just easier to have everything on a single device, and the fact that it's super easy to switch eSIMs out, I got rid of both and picked up a 15 plus, and I get a day and a half of battery, so that was worth it. And everything's on just a single device with no drama.
Yeah, that's actually wonderful. All right, so it would be great if you can just talk a bit about Indus. I would love to know about that.
So Indus is an Indo-futuristic battle royale. It's based on the premise that what if the Indus Valley civilization, outside of the two chapters we learned in history in grade 8, what if it didn't, just die out, but actually move to another universe? And what would that be? So that was the premise. That was the setup. And from there, we took it in a bunch of different directions where you have some, really cool characters. Like we have a droid called Sartaj, which was in one of the trailers. We have we announced a character Hina, which is based on Olympic pistol shooter Hina Sidhu, who's in the game as well. And we have another character called Morni, whose lore description I can't give you right now because there's going to be a cool reveal for that soon. And we even have Pokran, who's another character that was in our game world. Homi J Baba forged and created, basically made Pokran, and he's essentially a for in that universe, there are a lot of robots. So Pokran's a robot that gives power to the planet in this game. So the focus is lore. The focus is giving people a cool reason to come back and keep playing. Uh, and from a gameplay perspective, we aren't looking to. I mean, our main concern from a gameplay perspective is that a lot of the shooters these days, they feel very clinical and sterile when you shoot your guns. They don't have the nice punch you get when you're playing something like a Doom, or when you're playing something like you know uh, either a Doom or a Wolfenstein in that case. So there's a lot of time and energy spent on making the guns feel and play different. And so far, that's also one of the things a lot of players seem to have liked. So our focus has been on gunplay. Our focus has been on storytelling. Naturally, there's also a map. The map is called Virlok. It's an island above the planet of Indus, and we have different win conditions as well. So you aren't just. I mean, look, in battle royales, it's usually last man standing. But in our case, you can also win if you grab this mystical object which manifests itself towards the end of the game called Cosmium. So if you're able to grab onto Cosmium and hold on to it, and lay enough covering fire to anyone who's trying to get it at the same time you are, you can end up winning. And it's also then possible to win without killing a single person.
Pacifist runs, yes.
Yeah, we've made it for the pacifist run crowd. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. To those of you listening in, uh, our host is notorious for finishing a very popular Indian game without killing a single person in its single
Yes.
player mode, 4G. So yeah, there is a quote unquote pacifist run mode here called cause.
Wonderful.
But it came from a thought process of you want to be accessible to people of different skill ceilings. You don't want to keep it just super sweaty for the esports crowd. You want to make sure even normies can come in, have a good time. So that's how we look at it. We were looking at it from that perspective of making it easy to play for all. And it's not just even from a gameplay perspective. For us, we're optimizing the game to run on low end devices, mid and low end right now. So I think it's we're playable on phones which are around 10 or 15K. Objective is to go around lower, right? Get in the 8 to 10K bracket where it's playable for them as well. Obviously, you won't be doing bells and whistles, ray tracing 60 FPS, but okay, 30 FPS, you know. So we're figuring those things out at this stage.
Which platforms are you aiming for?
So we're going to be launching on mobile, Android, iOS first, and then after that, we're looking at PC console.
Wonderful. The fact that you said there are more ways to win the match, right? You said either you can be the last man standing or you can score the costume. So is it something similar to capture the flag, would you say?
No. We would for us the analog wouldn't be capture the flag. It would be because in capture the flag it's a lot more dynamic. You grab the flag, take it back to your base, right? And that's usually how it's been with be it Unreal or be it Halo or even Quake. That's how that mode usually progress. I look at it more. To me, the similarity is more with Quidditch from Harry Potter, where if you get the golden snitch, you win more often than not, even though it's point based. So here it's like, yeah, in a way, Cosmium is like a golden snitch. When it manifests, if you're able to grab onto it, you win.
So is there a time limit for which you have to hold it, or you just
Yes.
win as soon as you touch it? Like, yeah,
So
you
right
got
now
it.
there's a time limit.
Okay.
And based on feedback from our recent esports playtest where we had it playable with Cosmium as a win condition, that seems to be the right way forward.
That's wonderful. So, is there a specific time frame of where you're planning to launch it on platforms? You said you're starting with iOS and Android.
Yeah, so right now we're in a situation where the game's been playable in our office for the better part of a year, right? We've been having playtests for the game since August of last year, starting in our office in Pune. We've taken the game on the road to Bangalore for Comic Con, taken it to Surat, which to us is the heart of BR because that's where the biggest swaths of players are. And we even had it playable at Hyderabad and IGDC. So, right now at that stage where we're collating all that feedback and figuring out our next steps, we have committed to close beta soon, and it will be playable in some shape or form before the year is up for a decent number of people. I can't say more at this stage, but all I'd say is stay tuned to our socials to know more about that. But yeah, we're ramping up and figuring out when would be the right time to take this out. Because see, here's the thing, right? From our perspective, look, game development isn't exactly cheap. There's a lot of trial and error that goes into it, and more importantly, you don't want to be stuck sitting in your office just building a game without audience participation and audience feedback to know if you're going in the right direction. And we've seen that quite often with our game, right? In our first play test, we were under the assumption that no one wanted gyro controls. But immediately, because the people running the playtest are the developers themselves, right? We realized immediately that no, we need gyro in, and we got that running in time for our next playtest. So for us, it's a question of building out features that people want, giving them a say in how it's made. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's also important to make sure that there is audience participation at every step of the way. Because I mean, look, think about it, right? GTA 6's rumored dev budget is 2 billion, right? Um, If it ends up being a $2 billion turd, you please tell me what 2K and Rockstar are going to do. So, from our perspective, it's a question of being able to build in lockstep with the community, tune the right features, focus on the right things, and take it out there in a way that we reduce any chance of failure and are able to make a game that people care about. So that's why we've taken this approach of building it in public. And quite frankly, it's something we've been doing with our other titles as well. Battlestars was built in the same vein, plus our other games like Silly Royale as well were all built in the same vein of working in lockstep with the community and building it out. Because at the end of the day, players need also a reason to care, right? And I say that because there's a lot of soulless, boring, bland games out there. The fear is you don't want to be one of them.
Yeah, you'll just get lost in a sea of games because As they say, you have ample of games out there. It just makes sense to play the good ones. I see the discourse on the internet about physical games and digital games, and you're pretty vocal about, maintaining reliable digital storefronts and maintaining physical copies of the games as well. I would love to know more about your stance on that.
So a lot of it has to do with the fact that my first ever job was in games distribution and retail. My first job was working at Milestone Interactive, which is a now defunct games distributor. At one time was the biggest distributor of games in India and also distributed Sony's PlayStation hardware during the PS3, PS2 and PS3 era. And at the same time, Milestone wanted to venture into retail, so I'm the joker responsible for every used game business model you see in this country started from Game for You, which was by Milestone, and I was the guy who did that for them. So where I'm coming from, I'm a big fan of people being able to access what they want when they want, as long as they pay for it, right? So that's been my background, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that you know um, we have an audience that's willing to pay for experiences. Why should we take them for a ride, right? And also from the fact that, I mean, before I started working, I ended up pirating everything like everyone else. But the first 2 years that I started working, I had a full list of PS2 and 360 games and that I wanted to buy because hey, they were great games and it's unfair to the developers.
Correct.
So my point is, uh, so it came from that stance, but at that time that was a thought process of buying physical. Now it's more from a point of view of I don't want a situation where I don't get access to what I paid for, right?
Mm.
Particularly when they're labeled as single player experiences, right? So something like, for example, Spider-Man 2. Insomniac puts out a statement saying that, hey, the game is playable and all that. No, it wasn't. Your disc version was bad, and you should feel bad, right?
Yeah.
Or, for example, someone, and on the flip side, someone like Sega with like a Dragon Gaiden,
Mm-hmm.
right? They didn't release a physical edition outside of Japan and Asia, but I managed to import one. But the entire 1.0 was playable on disc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming from a place of accessibility. Not everyone wants to spend time downloading another 50, 60 gigs. Not everyone is sitting on 7, 8, 10 terabytes of data to keep every game downloaded and accessible at any given time. Uh, I feel that gaming shouldn't be disposable, right? It's art,
Mm.
right? No one's gonna take a Picasso and throw it in the garbage the next day. No, it's not suddenly that when you pick up a Monet that it gets blurred out and you can't look at it because servers went down. Games are art. They need to be treated with that level of respect and care. I don't want to happen to games what's going on with music and movies as well, because it's unfair. And if I look at it, there are parallels to keep this going. If we look at the books business, they've done the right thing. Fine, you have Kindles and you have ebooks and all, but paperback sales are still in a pretty good place, right? Hardbounds exist.
Correct.
Music is trying to stage a fight back with vinyl. Vinyl sales have been the highest they've been in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think it's a question of culture, right? If I look at it today, fine. In the US, physical sales may have flatlined, but if I look at Europe, if I look at Asia, right, there is that resistance, and that resistance exists for a good reason. Sure, convenience and all is nice with digital, but then you don't own access, you don't own it, right? And I've seen this happen. We've had this happen with, and I'm sure you're aware of this. Games for Windows Live.
Never again.
Yeah. Gee, how did that go? Right? Everyone thought that was Microsoft's answer to Steam and it would be great. They had achievements, it'd be so cool. No, every game had to migrate over to Steam, or in some cases weren't even accessible. Right? Stadia, what happened to that? Right?
Mm.
So where I'm coming from, I do believe that there's I mean, and see, I understand why publishers want this. It's a very simple reason. You want to make sure you have maximum margin. For them, when they do games on physical, they lose 50% of that margin because it goes into distribution costs, retailer margins, it goes into all of that, right? With digital, that number can go up to 80, 90, even 100%, right? Before payment gateways, before taxes, before everything, it can go pretty high. And but then the way I look at it is, give people the choice, right? Fine, charge a premium for physical, charge 5K. But if you're already making so much margin on digital, why aren't digital games cheaper? We're not paying for discs, we're not paying for boxes, we're not paying for manuals, we're not paying for printed parts, you're not paying for shipping. Why are we paying $70? We shouldn't be paying $70 or 5 grand for digital. We should be paying half. It's only fair to pass the savings on, right?
Correct.
Unless, of course, unless of course the server costs are eating them alive, then that begs the question, why are you doing all this in the first place? So it's, to me, it's just a question of making sure it's accessible to end users, right? Today, if I think about it, the 1.0 of Spider-Man 2018, which had the original um, face model of Peter Parker, right?
Mm-hmm.
They redid that with the remaster, and I mean, look, we saw what they did with what they tried doing with Star Wars with Return of the Jedi at the very end, where they removed the original Darth Vader actor and put Hayden Christensen and said for continuity. No, you've taken
Mm-hmm.
out a part of history, right?
Correct.
So it's a question of preservation, it's a question of access, and a question of giving players and owners a way to access and have what was theirs to begin with. So it's a lot of things, and it mainly boils down to accessibility. And it's a simple reason that, hey, if I'm paying for something, I should have every right to access it in the shape and form I want it to. And I mean, that's my biggest concern, particularly with single player with single player offline experiences, right? With live service games, sure, I get it. You're going to change everything as and when. Destiny 2 is a great example of that. Division 2 is a great example of that. But those changes are meaningful, and you've built an entire world and universe around the prospect of people coming back. Those are fine. But for single player games, it's preposterous to have this kind of nonsense that keeps going on, where on one end you have a lot of FUD that gets spread, that, oh, the game most games aren't on disk. That's not true. 80-90% of the publishers put all their games on disk. Not everyone is an Activision or a Konami, where they'll just put a 5 MB file and expect you to download the rest. So that's one big misnomer. And the other thing is, at the end of it, you also want to make sure that there are wider ways to experience things, right? Like, okay, one example is something like Firewatch, right?
Mm.
Most people don't even know Firewatch had a physical release, and the 1.0 is pristine. It's fantastic. So it's just a question of being able to allow for wider access, stop having a dependency on having to download everything, and getting to your games when you want to, right? Sony did a good job of that back in the PS4 era at the start, but now it seems that everyone seems to be going in that direction, where it's anti-consumer. But I do believe that, I mean, the more people talk, the better it'll be.
So why do you think Steam gets a pass? Because they're doing digital storefront correctly, or what?
So that's an interesting one. I look at it from multiple ways, right? One way is look at the refund policy on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing ever, in my opinion. You have that 2 week window, and you have that 2 weeks and 2 hour window, which is either you refund it in 2 weeks, or you play less than 2 hours, you get a refund. So they got that right. And secondly, what Steam also does a lot better than the rest, in my opinion, is their offline mode works.
It does. It does pretty well. Unlike the other storefronts.
Yeah, so with EGS, it's a problem, right? I thought, like, after I would rage on Twitter about Remedy give us a physical edition of Alan Wake, I had a lot of salty people giving me shit for it. I said, okay, why not give them benefit of doubt? Now, pick it up during Black Friday. Picked it up, tried playing it yesterday. I couldn't even access the game, right? Alan Wake 2 is a single player game available only on the Epic Game Store, right? I paid 2.5 grand for it. I can't even access the game. And the reason I wanted to check it out on PC was for ray tracing and the other cool things that are there, which I couldn't do. So I'm like, my dudes, what, this is fundamentally wrong. And then later I realized it's because Epic had a Fortnite event, so
Hmm.
everything went to heck. And that's not how it's supposed to work, man. I'm sorry. This is 2023. By now, given that between Valve, between Epic, between Microsoft, between Sony, everyone is basically giving AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, and whoever else a ton of money, Akamai, a ton of money just to keep their servers running. How dumb could this be, right? So I immediately got a refund. Steam gets a free pass because you don't have to worry about these things. And yeah,
Hmm.
Steam, but then see, Steam's also been around since 2004, right? They've been around since 2004. Their Trojan horse was Half-Life 2. I mean, I've had
Hmm.
my Steam account since Half-Life 2, 2004. I still have my Half-Life 2 discs. So yeah. But my point is, they get a free pass because at least they get the consumer part right. By and large, fine, there's a lot of ruckus about regional pricing, but at least with Steam, the advantage is are that compared to other storefronts for the longest time, they've tried to hold the line in terms of regional pricing best possible, right? Best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you have payment methods, right? Today I don't like using my debit and credit card online as much as possible. At least I can buy store credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a simple thing of me reaching out to a retailer, dropping him like UPIing him the money, and I get a Steam code in 10 minutes flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's also there. And yeah, they at least what they've got right is making it frictionless, and I'm yet to see that with other storefronts. Like with Sony and Microsoft, the issues that come in, right? For example, if you don't make a certain console your home console, you can't access digital content offline. So it's weird, right? And I think that's something in time they'll all need to figure out. But Steam is basically made it frictionless, made it accessible, has a good offline mode, and more importantly, uh, Valve's earned that trust, right? Between Team Fortress 2, between Half-Life, between Dota, between the fact that you have stuff like the Steam Deck and Steam Controller, which are pretty cool pieces of tech, and the fact that they're not beholden to anyone but themselves, makes them in a better place versus anyone else right now.
But also the fact that it's been like 4 or 5 years since Epic Game Store launched, and the launch is still pretty. It's not at like even calling it at parity with Steam would be a disservice to Steam because it's nowhere near the quality of Steam launcher. It's fairly basic.
I mean, if you ask me, GOG is, I mean, at this point, close to being on par with Steam. They've done
Mm-hmm.
a good job in terms of keeping things, everything is DRM free, everything's accessible. You really don't need GOG Galaxy unless you really want it for the achievements. And I think they've done a really good job. I mean, hats off the CD project to keep running that. And I appreciate the fact that they don't just run it and leave it at that. There are meaningful improvements over the years. So I think that they're in a good place that way. The only thing which bothers me a bit about GOG, and I realized this recently, is that they like to say one price for the entire world, but there's a loophole. So if you use a VPN and if you are able to know what their Russian and Ukraine stores are, let's just say you're paying half price, if not less. So and and I know that this has also been flagged to GOG employees, but they seem to be turning a blind eye. So yeah, that's also a thing. But I mean, to me, that's the second best option. So it's basically between Steam and GOG at this point. Everything else is okay, whatever. So that's how I look at it, at least from a PC perspective.
You didn't even get to play a single minute of Alan Wake 2, is that right?
Nothing.
That sucks. That sucks so bad. I wanted you to experience Alan Wake.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the first game. I ended up picking up at launch complete physical edition with the collector's edition box and everything. And that was the same week Red Dead Redemption was out, but I played Alan Wake first, and then had to buy a used copy of Red Dead Redemption because everything had sold out by then. And it was really good. I like what I played. And it got me hooked. So I was actually the next game of Remedies I was really looking forward to Quantum Break, which I also really liked. I found the whole confluence of game and an episodic TV show really cool, and I really like how they made that one. I thought that was a really fun experience.
I really wanted to finish it, but I couldn't even finish it on PC because of the bugs.
But the Steam version would have had that fixed up, right?
I'm not sure. But at least the Game Pass version is absolutely
Yeah,
really.
no, no. So what I ended up doing was I ended up replaying it on Steam. That was pretty good. The Games for Windows version was broken at launch, so I didn't bother with that. Yeah, I ended up playing it on Xbox One, and I really liked it because the whole setup was cool.
Yeah.
And then Control was fantastic. Like I finished that twice. That was so good. And I just did AWE because I wanted to play Alan Wake next. So I finished
Yes.
AWE, and I'm like, guys, why? Like why? So that's. I mean, I like Remedy's work. But I'm one of those who likes Remedy's work post Max Payne 1 and 2. I mean, yeah, those are nice and all, but these are on a different level in terms of storytelling. And I like the effort they make in making their games. I wouldn't use the term paranormal, but I would say like making them different versus the others. It's got that nice. It's like you're playing a Remedy game because of the,
Yes.
and they got those vibes down right.
At first, I was like, yeah, Control is a glorified tech demo, but once I played the game and finished it, like, this is something else. This is really nice, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And once I played Alan Wake 2, I was like, this was nice. This was amazing.
Did you play the AWE expansion?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
That
did.
was some crazy stuff, man. That was
Yeah,
some crazy stuff.
amazing.
My favorite part was that whole monologue with Langley, where he basically goes on, Langston, where he goes on and on about how he's left his cat and can't feed it. And oh, by the way, there's this thing which is dropped, and why don't you go take care of it? I'm like, bro, that was like some cool, good stuff. I really like what they did with that. So, yeah.
Well, you've refunded it already, right?
Yep, yep, yep. I'm just gonna see, maybe borrow a friend's, I don't know, play it on a friend's PC or figure something out. Let's see.
I'll hook you up. But talking about games, what's your game of the year contender for the year 2023?
Wow, that's a good one. Honestly, it's, I think most likely Baldur's Gate 3. I have spent an obscene amount of time playing that, 70 hours plus. It's a very reactive, detailed, cool world where you can do a lot of cool things. So to me, that's like right up there. That's one. The other one which was really good was Like a Dragon Gaiden, Man Who Erased His Name. That was, as someone who's been a long time fan of the Yakuza slash Like a Dragon series. It was a really cool entry because it starred a protagonist that had no business coming back to the franchise, but they earned every right to pull him back into the series with this entry. It was really good. Then there was Resident Evil 4 also, which is fantastic to me. Like,
Yes,
so good. I mean, it's not Capcom, it's CapGod at this point, dude. It is so good. Like,
that's true.
particularly with how they handled the a couple of sections towards the end, the way they
Mhm.
got those things right. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, you guys, we are not worthy. This is not a remake. This is not a remaster. This is just its own thing.
Yeah.
So I really like that one as well. And there are a few, and then in terms, and I also really liked what Gorilla did with the Horizon Burning Shores expansion. I thought that
Hmm.
was a really, really cool take on things. I thought it was really nice. Then there was Assassin's Creed Mirage that I also liked. Very focused.
Fascinating.
I
Fascinating.
like. See, honestly, I was never a big Assassin's Creed fan until Unity.
Hmm.
I really liked Unity. But then again, a lot of the reasons why I liked Unity was that see, I had got review code for that game on Xbox One. I unplugged my Xbox One from the internet and played it. Right? I didn't have any of the drama anyone had. Right? And to me, that was like a really fun game. I liked Origins and Odyssey as well. Valhalla was too much of a slog. And right now, Mirage, for me at least, I never really got stuck into Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and what they did with the Ezio trilogy. I never got stuck into that. But this to me felt that had the right balance of, okay, old school Assassin's Creed in terms of linearity, along with polished modern day controls. So that's why I kind of liked it. I thought Mirage was a fun one. And then what else? I played a bit of Division Resurgence on mobile. Cannot wait for that full release. Like, in my veins, please.
I think it's coming in February.
Yeah, let's hope it makes the date. I am so looking forward to it.
Oh my God, Suicide Squad has competitions.
No, honestly, Resurgence I like because it genuinely felt like a proper AAA experience on mobile. And I know that term's been used to death,
Hmm.
but as someone who spent like I think over 200 hours between Division 1 and 2, uh, you could tell, like, yes, that the team at Ubisoft put a lot of TLC into this. So that was another one. But yeah, off the top of my head, these are the ones I think of, and I'm sure there are others also.
Oh my goodness, you didn't have fun playing Spider-Man 2?
It was good, but to be honest with you, my only concern was, while it was really good and it's super polished, and the whole thing around it in terms of how they, to me, what was really cool with Spider-Man 2 was how they essentially elevated Peter's story arc. I thought that was really well done. Miles's was fine. I wasn't a fan of that whole Adidas thing they shoved into the game,
It's really bad.
which was kind of mid. But I mean, to me, the big win was, how Peter's arc played out, and it did one thing which I didn't expect it to do, was, okay, made me want to watch Spider Verse and the other movies, which I'm in the process of doing. So I liked it, but I mean, to me, is it like, let's put it this way: do
Hmm.
I? It's basically boils down to this, right? At this point in time for me, do I pick a game that lets me go into a goblin camp and basically or kill off three bosses without as much as lifting a finger, which is what I can do in Baldur's Gate 3? Or is it a game that does really good polished traversal? I mean, impeccable, world class, god tier traversal, um, and a really cool open world that lets me do a lot of cool things. It's basically between these two, which is why it's inside you. There are two wolves, one like Baldur's Gate 3, the other one like Spider-Man 2, and you're stuck somewhere. And I did like Starfield as well. But my concern with Starfield is after 20 hours in, it still doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. So that's what bothers me a bit with that.
Did you end up completing Starfield?
No, no, I dropped it 20 hours, went back to Baldur's Gate and finished that off. So like, I mean, yeah, it's basically right now it's all over the place. I haven't even thought about it properly yet. I mean, to be honest, there are some games I want to try out before I even think about it, like Sea of Stars,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe give Warhammer Dark Tide a shake, because it's got a few updates. It seems really cool to me. So, might just do that. But yeah, I haven't really thought about it, because I'm one of those who thinks Game of the Year should be December 31st.
Yeah.
Not December 3rd. So I'm still thinking about that. But yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, it's been a good year, but
Hmm.
I still think that it's nowhere close to 2007, 2017, 2004, or even 2018 for that matter. So yeah.
Mhm. Quickly touching upon Assassin's Creed. My first Assassin's Creed experience was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. No, it was Bloodlines on PSP. Then I
Ah,
played Brotherhood on PC. Then Assassin's Creed 3, skipped 4, then basically played Unity. I was like, oh, this is a quantum leap. I have like 70 hours on PC on Assassin's Creed Unity. Wonderful game. I love it to death. And then I skipped Syndicate, which was a British version of Unity, but worse. Then Origins was fine. Like, I appreciate the changes and all, but Odyssey and Valhalla, no. I'm
wait,
good,
you didn't
thanks.
play Black Flag?
No, I skipped it because, okay. No, no,
Dude,
no, no, no.
you
Okay.
really need to play Black Flag. It's
Listen.
subversive. It is super subversive. Just play it because it's subversive.
Okay, hot take. I did not like the naval combat in Assassin's Creed 3. That was the part which I always felt like it's a chore. So that's why I was like, Black Flag is literally that. The whole game is like that. So I
Not
skipped it.
really. There's a lot of it. There's only some of it towards the end.
Okay.
I would still say give it a shot, because
I own it. I own it, but I just haven't played it.
it's worth it for the pro tag. Pro tag is a troll.
Uh,
That's why play it, because Protag is a troll and he gets himself into misadventures. That is like that to me. It's really cool, because it's let's just say that Edward is a lot of things. So you should check it out.
I have played the opening hour of the game until he becomes the assassin.
No, no, there's a
Yeah.
lot of other things after he becomes the
Ooh.
assassin. So I would highly recommend checking it out when you can.
Okay, I'll do the needful. But yeah, you liking Mirage was like, because it's basically a DLC for Valhalla, which got released into a standalone game.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that they're making changes and going back to the roots, but I would say it's still not there.
So the way I
But
look at it is, see, right? It's not a question of whether it was supposed to be DLC or not DLC. It's also a question of what you get for what you pay for, right? It may have been a focused, smaller experience, but from someone who's look, man, some of my favorite games are Dishonored and Deus Ex. Right? These
hmm,
are the kind of games I like. Even Thief to that to an extent. To have something from a AAA studio that's stealth and that
hmm.
plays to that fantasy well enough was worth my time and energy. So, and it was fairly priced, right? Today, and it's going to shock you here, is that it's actually one of the best selling games in this country right now.
Ooh, that's
Like
fascinating.
Spider-Man, so it's like Spider-Man 2 is the number one. This is in the top three.
Fascinating.
I'm guessing Spider-Man 2, then FIFA, and then EAFC, and then it's this one. I'm not sure about EAFC because it got a bit of a spike in sale after being discounted. But I'm not
Hmm.
sure if it's hit top five. But at least according to a couple of people I spoke to, it has. But I need to double check that. But Mirage is definitely in the top three, at least from what I've been told. After Spider Man,
That's very fascinating to me.
there's a reason for that. There's because there's a huge audience of people who grew up with the games,
Hmm.
and they grew up with the games. They aren't exactly big fans of the open world format that Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla had, and there was a lot of exhaustion, right,
Correct.
with those three. So there, and there's always been that clamor from a vocal part of the Assassin's Creed fan base since Origins of going back to the series roots. So I'm not
Mhm.
surprised that it's been rewarded in kind by players because it's done very, very well.
Do you like the mark and execute feature?
I thought it was cool, man, because I liked it in Splinter Cell Convention. So,
That's the reason I called it mark and execute. I don't know what's called in Mirage. I forgot.
but dude, Splinter Cell, yeah, we need another one of those. Conviction, I really liked, and I even liked Blacklist. So, yeah.
I love it. Like Conviction was insane, but the way how they expanded the whole, not even the lore, but the mechanics and everything was fantastic on Blacklist.
Yep,
I
yep.
own both of them. It's amazing. And you know what irks me the most is the fact that Ubisoft is constantly teasing him, but they are not making a new Splinter Cell game apart from the remake that they announced.
I think it's fine. Where do if there's any game that deserves a remake, it's Splinter Cell at this point. The OG was tough as nails for a lot of people.
Yes, I remember.
Quite frankly, to this day, I really don't even know how lockpicking works in that game. All right, to me, it was that obtuse a title, and it was unforgiving as hell. So I'm looking forward to them doing it. They've got the original team back, at least the original, the guy, the main creator of it back. So after Legion, he's working on this. So yeah, looking forward to what they do.
But yeah, the fact that they have teased it in Far Cry 5 DLC, I forgot what the name was. He was teased there, he was teased in Division and more Ubisoft titles, but
Yep.
nothing else on the horizon.
No, I think give it some time. It needs to cook.
Mm.
So I'm not too worried, right? Because a lot of these projects have some time. Like Clint Hawking, who is basically the guy who's attributed to be the creator of sorts of that franchise, and who also is responsible for the very awesome Far Cry 2 is running it. So I'm not too
Oof,
worried. We'll have
that's,
to see what they do.
you know what else is cooking? Max Payne remakes. Oof, I can't wait. If Alan Wake 2 is so fucking insane, I can't imagine what they will do with Max Payne 1 and 2.
That's a little to me. That's a little dicey territory, right? Because if I look at the Final Fantasy VII remakes, they
Mhm.
took the word remake very seriously and they retconned a lot of the original story, right? So now the question is, how tempted is Remedy to mess around and make it a part of their overall universe or make it its own thing? So that's something we'll have to see.
I don't want to spoil anything from Alan Wake 2, but you need to play it.
I'll
That's
figure
all
it out.
I'll say. Yeah. They have certain nods to Max Payne, and I'll
Nice,
leave it at that.
nice.
But what I love the most about Alan Wake 2 is the perfect harmony between live action and in game cinematics.
Hmm.
It's just insane. And I'm sure at this point you have seen the musical.
I've heard about it. I saw it showed up in my YouTube records when I was checking some story videos around the game. So, but I mean, let's see, because to me, it's natural progression. Because I don't know, in the first game, if you reach that point where you basically have to hold off the entire horde of darkness. Spoilers for a 13-year-old, 14-year-old game, people. And as you do that, you have Barry setting up the lights, and you have the old gods of Asgard playing. Children of the Elder God, and that was like the moment of the game.
Hmm.
That's when everything kicks in. You're like, yeah, this is like they've taken it up a notch, right? So I'm sure that's why for them, I'm guessing that would be natural progression to do live action straight in, right? Plus the budget's there, so
There are several moments of that caliber in Alan Wake 2. It's amazing. I was very fascinated by the idea that they are balancing two different protagonists and you can switch between them at any time, like at specific points in the story. But the fact that how it equally gels and stitches the story, it's insane.
interesting.
But I ended up doing Alan's side of story first and then followed up with Saga. Because I was
Nice.
like, I want to play the protagonist. So, I mean, okay,
Nice.
before I get cancelled, Saga is also the protagonist, but yeah.
No,
Uh,
I get where you're coming from, right? I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure a lot of people have done the same. But I'm just very curious to see how it all stitches up because if the leaks even for GTA 6 are accurate, you're going to be swapping between two pro tags there also.
I mean, that'll be just like GTA 5.
No, you had three pro tags in GTA 5.
No,
That's
but
the only difference.
wow, maths.
Yeah, dude, believe.
Well, it's going to be the first female protagonist, so yeah.
Let's see where it goes. I'm very curious to see because to me, I I look at it this way. I mean, it was interesting for its time, right? To be able to switch between pro tags in GTA 5. But
Hmm.
then Red Dead and other titles have shown that you really don't need that to make or break your game. So how someone like Rockstar is able to improve the formula in a post Alan Wake 2 world
Hmm.
will be of interest to see, because what I found fascinating with what you said right now is the ability to switch between pro tags and complete their stuff in any order. That's really cool because
So I just want to clear up. It's not like you can switch between them at any time. You have to go at specific places where you can switch between them.
got it,
Yeah, it's not like GTA 5. You can just switch anytime.
got it. No, so then let's see what they end up doing. I mean, curious all the same.
Yeah. But you know what bothers me the most is the fact that I'm not sure if they will keep their edgy humor because you know how sensitive the world is right now as compared to 2013 when GTA 5 came out. So I wonder if their humor is going to be up to that level or it's going to be watered down.
I don't know. I wouldn't worry too much about that because it's a simple fact of, see, you also have to understand where gaming is concerned, this is an outlier, right? This is not a game, it's a cultural phenomenon. And yes, you could get away with murder in 2013 versus what you can put out right now. But that's not to say those pockets of subversion can't exist. And I say that because we have more options in terms of entertainment. So, and there are more mediums to reach your audience, right? So there are two or three ways for Rockstar to go about it. Assuming they have stuff which, let's say, can't make it to the game, nothing is stopping them from doing a podcast, nothing is stopping them from doing a radio drama, nothing is stopping them from putting out a whole bunch of lulls on Twitter. There are so many ways for them to get that out there, right? If they
Mhm.
so choose. That's one part of it. And secondly, see, it's also a function of how cooperative their parent company is. And there's always going to be, at this level, at a GTA level, there's always going to be that friction between corporate and between the artists, the
Mhm.
creators, the developers, right? And I think that's something Take Two has been a very good steward of in recent times. Even if I look at something as like Borderlands 3, no matter how cringe that was, they let it slide. I don't think that's going to be much of an issue because push comes to shove, Stross Jelnik will just say on an earnings call, we believe in giving our developers the maximum creative freedom and liberty to make the best possible game and leave it at that. Share, because see, one thing most people seem to forget is, sure, yes, if this was any other title, they will have trial by fire. But fact of the matter is, it's a question of who's impacted, right? 2K is not going to do anything as long as the shareholders are happy. And shareholders don't care about the content of the game unless it impacts stock price.
Mm.
And the last I checked, this franchise prints money. So
True.
because of all these underlying factors, the only people to put pressure on the or to let's say remove a scene like the whole iFruit phone exploding thing, which I thought was really cool and still relevant to this day, right? One of the most iconic moments in games, in my opinion, because it's so damn relevant even right now.
That's the beauty of their writing that even by 2013 standards, it's very culturally appropriate in 2023 as well.
Yeah, even Red Dead 1, right? I'm yet to see a game, yet to see a franchise or a game that actually ends up making you feel sympathetic for a necrophiliac, which is what Red Dead 1 managed to do. So where I see it is, the only people putting pressure on them to, how should I say, sterilize or neuter their expression would be them themselves at this stage. Given that this is GTA and this has the widest net. And so we'll have to see. I don't think it's gonna go to that situation where where they're gonna be held back. But then also that's one part of it, and the other part of it is, okay, fine, you also have a certain responsibility to an audience that wide. So we'll see how it plays out. But then, given that their corporate overlords have seemed to be very chill, we'll have to see.
Apart from GTA 6, is there any other specific game that you're really looking forward to in the near future?
That's a good one. Honestly, Insomniac's Wolverine. Very
Yes.
curious to see how they do that. Very, very curious to see how they do that.
Hmm.
Then there's the Final Fantasy remake part two. Definitely looking forward to that. Speaking of which, yeah, another game on my GOTY list, FF16. So good.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so good. Really love the combat. Really love the entire storyline. I really love that one. But yeah, Remake 2 and Wolverine are two on my list. Then there's even I want to see what ends up happening with this indie title called Demon School, because it's basically it's a very different take on the Persona formula. So looking forward to that. Persona 3 Reload is also what I'm looking forward to next year. And I mean, there are rumors of a new. Oh yeah, and Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, Dragon Dogma 2. Sorry, Dragon's Dogma 2.
Mm.
Looking forward to Dragon's Dogma 2 as well. So yeah, quite a few cool titles to look forward to. Hopefully, Microsoft shows us more of Avowed. I'm very curious to see how that turns out. Considering we're not getting Elder Scrolls 6 for a lifetime. And while Avowed has those vibes and they're saying it's not going to be like Elder Scrolls, it's got that high fantasy first person vibe really nice. So I hope we see more of that. So yeah, looking forward to a lot of things.
What happened to Hellblade 2? That they showed a trailer 3 years ago, then dipped.
I'm guessing, at least from what I believe, and this is, we're trying to put the pieces together,
Mhm.
is a lot of times trailers are just put out to keep to make sure there's something to show, and the studio will take its time to make the best possible game, right? So usually a lot of times, okay, yeah, it's like a sign of, hey, it's been work in progress, don't worry about us. That's usually sometimes why trailers are made, right? And I think it's also a question of the, if you look at Ninja Theory, right? To me, what bothers me immensely, and this is the kind of stuff which most people hate, but I have to say it. What
Mm.
bothers me immensely is that we never got a second DMC game from them. I really liked DMC Devil May Cry. I thought it was fun, and it would have been cool for them to get a second one while Capcom continues the mainline series. I thought
Mhm.
that would have been a cool way forward. In an alternate reality, maybe we would have got that. And they're really good at that, being at that convergence between action gameplay and decent to good narrative beats. I thought they do that really well. So I'm sure, at least to me, if I think about it from the lens of Hellblade 2, and considering that their whole approach, you also have to understand their approach pre Microsoft buyout was double A, as in triple A indie, being, trying to do as much cool, polished, realistic, great stuff, but with a indie budget. Now, when you've moved from that mindset to here's all the money in the known universe, make a game. I feel that they may be coming to terms with it, because if you look at their work before Senua Sacrifice, they had done DMC Devil May Cry, they had done Heavenly Sword, and they had done a bunch of contract work. So it's not like their budgets were their budgets until
Mhm.
Hellblade, in a way, right? So I'm sure it's a question of trying to find out the right fit, trying to understand how grand they want it to be, and take things from there. So I'm guessing that's where it's at. I don't know if we're going to see a quantum leap like we did from, like, the difference between, if you ask me, the difference between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City is night and day. I don't know if we're going to see that kind of leap for something with Hellblade, but to me it seems that, yeah, they want to have a bigger scale, but and that takes time.
The way that you mentioned Capcom, you know what excites me the most? Like the way that they're making remakes. I can't wait for Resident Evil 6 remake. Like I have a love-hate relationship with Resident Evil 6. It's so fucking absurd. The whole game is a mess, but I love it.
Same. I'm actually looking forward to what they do with five, because five was equally absurd with Chris punching rocks and stuff like that. So it'll be fun to see how they approach all these things and what they do and where the changes lie.
Yeah, I had fun playing Resident Evil 5 on Xbox 360. Then I played Resident Evil 6 on PC and it was fun. The only thing being, I never got to play in co op mode in Resident Evil 6. Only once, just for like half an hour, but I never played the whole campaign in co op mode with a friend.
I don't know. I think they're gonna keep it single player. I don't think they'll bring a co-op experience back. That's my thought process. Even at five, I don't think they're gonna bring the co-op experience back.
But how do you think they will balance the protagonist then? Like you can just choose whichever you want to play as.
Yeah, why not? That worked with Resi too. The formula is there. But let's see. I like two, but I preferred three and four more. Three to me is still the best because it is nice, contained, no drama, and the dodge move made it play like Vanquish if you knew what to do. So
Oh yes, yeah, Vanquish, yeah. Before I talk more about games, I would like to know what do you think about the new PlayStation 5 redesign?
oh man, a lot of concerns with that one. For one, the fact that your disk drive is paired and has to be connected to the internet is pretty stupid, because
Yeah,
tomorrow if
that
Sony switches
sucks.
servers, you've had it. So that's one issue. Second issue, it really doesn't look that great. It doesn't have any character. And I say that because, come on, man, this is like, if you look at every PlayStation design from the original all the way up to now, right? And even with the PSP and Vita designs, and even bad example, even the Portal for that matter, they're striking. They stand out. They look
Yeah.
cool. Even the slim revisions for the PS3, right? And even the OG PS3, like,
Yeah, I although I agree, even the ultra slim PS3 looks distinctive for the wrong
yeah,
reasons, but it does
it
look
looks like
distinctive.
it looks like a barbecue. I get that, but then at the end of the day, at least it had some cool design tricks to it, right? It had the sliding top loader, which I thought was really nice. You don't see those,
Yeah.
right? I like that kind of design. I like that aesthetic. It's cool. Here it's just like, guys, like, what did you do? You did what? You did gastric bypass on the PS5 or what? Like, come on, man. Like, put some work into it. Like, even the difference between the PS4 with the rhombus design and the PS4 Slim, they were meaningful, subtle changes that worked, man. To me, the best thing on the Slim PS4 was the fact that the buttons were replaced. Right?
Hmm.
They had proper Mac buttons that had proper indicators that are really nice, done well. And even the difference between the PS3 and PS3 Slim, right? Where they removed the piano finish buttons, they went with something more clicky and matte. Those were
Yes.
cool too, right? But here it's like, guys, what are you doing? Did the industrial design team just get hijacked by your what is this? Are these the interns making it? Like, come on, man. I don't know. I expected a little more because this is Sony at the end of the day, and if anything, their designs are distinctive, and I would dare say a lot of them have been iconic, right? If we see PS1 to this PS1 Slim, PS2 to PS2 Slim, PS3 PS3 Slim, PS4 PS4 Slim, all of those were like well made. They're iterative, yes, but they built on them in such cool ways that you felt that they were great. Here it's like, guys, like, come on, man.
You know what feels really incomplete to me in PS5 Slim is the fact that it doesn't have those grilled vents in the front. It's just one black plastic piece just jutting out from the side. It looks incomplete to me.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's just disappointing, to be honest. I expected a lot more, and I say that because, I mean, for all the laughs I have at Microsoft's expense, right, through the generations, and this is someone who's a long-suffering Xbox fanboy who actually paid actual cash money for two original Xbox Ones, the VCR-looking garbage devices. Even their designs on the Series X and towards the end of the Xbox One era were fantastic, right? Like, they got that right. They got their design identity and aesthetic right. This is like a step in the wrong direction. So,
Now that you mention Xbox, a quick question. What do you think about the adorably all digital Xbox X refresh that's coming up next year?
firstly, we don't know if it's true. Phil Spencer said, and I hope he's not pulling our leg here, that there's going to be some changes, right? The only proof we have of this existing are documents that were uploaded to the FTC's or sorry SEC to the, I think, FTC's website,
Hmm.
and a lot of it appears to have been dated. Right? If it's all digital, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, I'll be honest, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And if it's got a disk drive, great. Okay, maybe there might be some merit to this, because as someone who has a large collection of Xbox 360 games I visit on and off, I mean, you better give me that liberty, otherwise what's the point? um and the other thing here is, more importantly, is forget all that for 1 second. Even if you leave my own issues about preservation or Microsoft's neglect of that, my other concern is how much more can you push the tech? Because I frankly feel, for like, if we look at the Series X, right, developers haven't even been able to tap out a lot of what's there. I don't think they're able to even harness a lot of what's there on the Series X, a lot of what's there on the PS5. We're not ready for a mid-gen refresh. So unless they're able to cram like a 4090 tier spec in it, what's the point? And I don't think they're there yet. To me, this probably seems like a way to bung in new flavors of FSR before they're ready for PC audiences. To me, this
Mhm.
seems like a way to bung in new ways of ray tracing before they're ready for PC audiences. But I'm trying to understand, where's the upside. Are you gonna give me 120 hertz 120 FPS default on every game at 4K? Will you have the tech that's there to cram into a box that small? I don't think so, right? So to me, I'm trying to see where the performance upsides can be without increasing the size of the box exponentially, right? And I say that because like I do a fair bit of my gaming these days on PC, and my PC is a Zotac ZBox Magnus One with a 3070, right?
Same.
In that form factor, I know I can do 1440p. I can hit 120 FPS on a lot of titles. But on the graphically intensive single player stuff, I know I'll do 50 to 60 FPS without much optimization. So the question is, if those are the physical limitations, right? And if these are
Mm.
physical limitations with hardware that's dedicated GPU, dedicated RAM, and all that stuff, what magic are you able to prove to get people to the next level? And I don't think that we're there yet.
And this is why I'm low key pissed at Microsoft that they're the ones who are, keeping everything back. Like last gen Xbox One was the piece of hardware which was pulling everyone back. Like, oh, we can't push the graphics and all because Xbox One. And this time it's Series S. Even if I recall correctly, there was someone from Remedy on
Yeah,
Digital Foundry, and
Remedy had said it that it's underpowered. Even Larian for Baldur's Gate had said the same thing, and which is why Microsoft has had to make an exception to the feature set. So there's no parity. Series S version of Baldur's Gate, I don't think will have co-op versus Series X. So all that is there, and it's not a question about holding back, right? Developers have a choice, don't support it. But now here's where things get very saucy, right? AAA can throw people at the problem and make it work, right? That's what the AAA game devs will do. But indies and AA, I mean, they'll still want to be on Game Pass when Microsoft throws them some millions to keep the lights on, right?
Mhm.
And you want to make sure everyone is taken care of. I remember Night School before they got acquired by Netflix had said that they hit 3 million new players with After Party being on Game Pass, and because of the MG they were able to keep the lights on. The minimum guarantee they got from Microsoft, they were able to keep the lights on. So if you get into that zone, right, where fine, the hardware may be garbage, but business reasons will ensure you support because there's a potential of a minimum guarantee upfront money. And to give you some perspective, these deals go up to like 40, 50 million. GTA 5 to be on Game Pass was a 40, $50 million deal for product that's already ready.
Mm.
That's that's the highest end of the spectrum. But
Yeah, yeah.
usually these deals for indies would probably be in the range of, I guess, if I were to guess, and this is like purely guesswork on my part, maybe in the
Mhm.
range of 250K to a couple of million here or there. But then for a lot of studios, that's enough to keep the lights on. So
Well, now I'll move a bit aside from games. I heard that you're being into movies now. You're watching Spider-Verse and stuff. Wow, I'm so proud of you. Finally catching up on those movies.
look, man, I dropped off the whole MCU bandwagon after Age of Ultron.
Is there a specific reason why?
That movie was bad, and Disney Marvel should feel bad. After I just lost all interest in that stuff. So yeah,
What
and
put you off specifically in that movie?
Age of Ultron, everything was so disjointed. The entire thing was just disjointed. You didn't know what was going on. Where was the story? The story didn't exist. And that too coming after the OG Avengers movie, which actually had some very cool sections of storytelling, had some very cool moments. This was like, guys, like really now. So that's kind of why like I've fallen off the bandwagon. The last quote unquote hero movie I ended up watching was The Joker, which was surprisingly very cool. And
Wait, are you telling me you haven't seen the 2022 The Batman movie?
no, I haven't. I
Listen,
haven't seen that. I've like fallen off the grid with what a lot of the stuff is concerned.
fuck all those movies. You need to watch it right now. And you know what the best part about that movie is? Despite being 3 hours long, the pacing is so nice you will never feel that it's a
Ah,
slog and you're watching a 3 hours movie. Which I can't say about Avengers Endgame, which was terrible.
I
In the sense
mean,
that you felt fatigued by the end ki kab khatam hogi movie hai. It's not ending.
so in my case, there was like what? I ended up watching all of After Party, which is really cool. On Apple TV, that was really great. Then I
Mhm.
ended up watching this. I watched the both documentaries on Carlos Ghosn and how he escaped Japan. There was one on
Mhm.
Netflix and one on Apple TV, and those are really ridiculously fun. Then I ended up watching this other one about what is this? I think it was I forgot who the directors were. I think the Coen brothers. This movie called Hail Caesar, which took place in 1950s America during the Red Menace, where everyone was thought to be communist and what goes down. That was pretty cool. But yeah,
Mhm.
getting back into quote unquote movies. The last one I watched in theaters was I think Dungeons and Dragons. That was really good.
Oh,
I think I even watched Spider. I sorry, not Spider. The Mario movie, which is also pretty good. So yeah, getting back into it, it's like I've just gone off the grid on that because a lot of what would show up in theaters was MCU, 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 and I'm like, that's no, not interested. So yeah.
yeah, they have fallen real bad, and now like they're somewhat trying to lift themselves up because
Mm.
it's been confirmed the only movie coming out from Marvel in 2024 is Deadpool 3. That's it. No other movie.
Makes sense. That's one. That's the one that hasn't been plugged into the greater MCU yet. I hope so.
Nina, yes and no. If you have seen Deadpool
I
2,
watched the first one. I haven't watched the second one. So yeah.
I mean, first two are like fine. They're fun in their own little bubble, but yeah. By the end, it has a post-credit scene which sets up more things. But yeah, there's that. Okay, so before I give you all the time in the world and fuck off from this call, is there a specific game which is far in the future right now? Let's say it's still 2 3 years away, and you're really eager to find out what it's like.
That's a good question. Hmm. To be honest, I'm very, very curious to see what Arcane is working on next. Right, considering now they have the money, they have the means, and there's enough space between Redfall and whatever they're planning next. I have a feeling I'm actually looking forward to what Arcane does. I'm also looking forward to see what Warren Spector does. If I'm not mistaken, he's working with Tencent now, and considering he's the reason the immersive sim genre is a thing. Very curious to see what he does. Then the third is seeing what Rafael Colantino, the guy who made 2016's Prey, which is in my opinion one of the greatest games of all time, see what he's able to do with or with what he's working on next after Weird West. So I mean, to me, it's basically seeing what happens with these three. Um, and in the more immediate term, what the RGG Sega's RGG studio does with Yakuza slash Like a Dragon, they have Infinite Wealth that's out next year. That's obviously a day one purchase for me. But what I'm
Mhm.
curious to see is what they do with titles after that as well. So yeah,
I'm looking forward to what CD Projekt Red does next because now they're done with Cyberpunk. So I think they'll be moving on to Witcher 4 development.
that's already happened. The majority of the team is on it, but I mean, what I'm fascinated to see is what they do in terms of combat for Witcher 4.
Hmm.
I like three's combat, no matter how simplistic some people think it is. I thought it was well done, but how much of a leap we see in 4 is going to be of interest.
All right. So as I cap things off, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Rishi Alwani. From time to time, I have a newsletter that talks about the state of the games business here from a PC and console standpoint. That's 0451games.substack.com. And yeah, you can find me at those two places.
That's wonderful. Thanks for joining me. I hope you had a wonderful time.
Yeah, it
You
was good.
have you have to say it nonetheless.
No, it was damn good, man.
All right. I'll see you on the interwebs then.
See ya.
All right, good people. With that, we have come to the end of this episode. I hope you liked it. And if you did, like, share, subscribe, do your thing. You know what to do. And if you have any questions for either me or Rishi,